let's jump on to the first thing we're going to talk about, and that's the NFC South. Mark, looking at the NFC South, the Bucs are in the lead, 6-7, 1-6, lost 7. The Panthers are 5-8. The Falcons are 5-8. The Saints are 4-9. Each team has got 4 games left this season. And look, people can say whatever about the Saints, them being 2 games out, and then you've obviously got that tiebreaker as well. This division is still all to play for, in the sense of Brady has to play Burrow this weekend. And while the Bucs went to Munich and got the win, and almost a lot of people, I remember sitting there after the game, and people in the press conference were talking about like this being like a reset almost for their season, and they have not found a way to get over the line in certain games, and they're now sitting in a situation where they're under 500. Who's going to win the NFC South? Please tell me, because I put a question up on Twitter this week and nobody can give me an answer. It seems like the sensible option is to say the Bucs, but in reality, I just don't believe in this Bucs team to carry through for the next few weeks. Am I crazy?
Legacy hasn't worked out once this season. Like, we look at the LA Rams, there's just a presumption as Super Bowl champions that they were going to be good. The Green Bay Packers, I mean, they're coming back into the fold again now because of the emergence of Christian Watson. But, our thoughts of, it's the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick, that means they go to the playoffs. It's not really playing out like that. And I think we're falling for that with the Bucs as well, that division is so weak. We're saying, okay, where's Tom Brady? So at the end of the day, the Bucs, look, that whole division, there's 2 games separates the number 1 in the division and a chance to go to the playoffs from last place. So everyone is still involved, which is absolutely crazy. I'm going to talk only briefly about the Falcons and the Saints at the end. But if you look at the 2 teams, the Bucs have the 5th fewest pass or points scored per game in the NFL. And that has to come straight off the top, because a week ago we talked about maybe that it was, even on our preview just gone, our review of the week, it was that the defense, part of the storyline is that the defense wasn't able to keep San Francisco out of the end zone. The week before that, we talked about, well, it might not be on Tom Brady. He shoulders a lot of the headlines a lot of the time, but it has to fall on Byron Leftwich, the offensive play caller, and whatever is the coaching. But whatever way you want to dice it up, this team has scored the 5th fewest points per game. To put that into perspective, it's the Rams, Texans, Colts, and Broncos have scored fewer than them. And when you look across to what they did last year, they were 2nd in points per game with 30. So that disparity of 13 points a game is that, like, it sums up exactly what the difference is, that they cannot put points on the board this year, that they can't just rely on the defense, even when it is top boss. Whether it's Bruce Arians or otherwise, I don't really care at this point, because when you're just looking straight at the NFC South, over the weekend, the first time I saw a team from the NFC South that I thought was scary was the Carolina Panthers. And you wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago, because they had Matt Rule. When they fired Matt Rule, I put them straight down to the bottom of the power rankings, because I thought, well, that's it. They're dust. They can't compete. But what they did was they have Steve Wilkes, who, whether it was the Cleveland Browns or the Arizona Cardinals, Steve Wilkes always wanted to establish a team. Even though he's a defensive coordinator, he said that the way to break a team spirit is the run game. So now that he's back in charge as an interim with the Panthers, he has instilled a run-first approach with that team. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, when he was traded, we said, well, that's all their weapons gone. But what it allowed them to do is completely reset what they're doing with the run game. And now you have guys like Devontae Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, and even during the week they had Raheem Blackshear come out for 4 carries that were all extremely productive. And I'll pull back the curtain for a second. I had a bet on this game. I needed an anytime touchdown score, and I had Devontae Foreman. I kind of saw that they were going to lean on the pass or on the run game, so I was particularly interested because there was a good bit of money on the line. I only bet a tenner, but it was good odds, and I was glued to it. And the way they were able to interchange the running backs was such a flex. Like, it was such a strong thing to do. It's as soon as Devontae Foreman, who had 21 carries on the day, as soon as he started to look tired, they put in Chuba Hubbard in the red zone, or they put in Raheem Blackshear, who both got a touchdown each. So it's like Devontae Foreman was able to do the heavy lifting, and then they put in Chuba Hubbard, they put in Blackshear. And we talk around this time of year about how the running game is what you need to lean on, and you're able to go off. Like, look, Sam Darnold is playing for his career, it seems. DJ Moore is a threat. But I just love that they have this ability to run the ball like that. And like I said at the top, it just makes them look so much scarier on offense than anyone has done in that division this year.
Michaela, it's a funny one because the Panthers, as Mark has said, and I'm sorry about your bet, Mark, but the Panthers have found a way to win in situations in which you wouldn't have given the chance 5 to 6 weeks ago. Now, obviously, they had that game against the Bucs after the firing, where I think the general scope for me, Michaela, is there seems to be just more confidence and more of a buy-in and belief among the players. And you have to look at a guy like Sam Darnold. I didn't think would play it down again as a starter in the league, and look what's happened there. And yeah, that run game is superb. But the defense to hold Seattle as well last week was very impressive. I look at the Bucs. I think it's a serious issue for them down the stretch in the sense of the playoffs, but if they do get there, because as Mark has said again about them being so low in points, I think Brady is. This has to be, and I understand. Like, we have sat watching the World Cup last weekend, and we've seen Cristiano Ronaldo in his mid to late 30s not be the same player that he is. Like, Brady's not the same player that he is, and that's fine. But we've went from a situation, Michaela, where the Bucs just haven't performed to. They have not performed this season, but they were performing at a high level last season, getting the ball down the field, but more importantly, scoring points. So, for you, who wins the NFC South? Because at the minute, yes, the Bucs seems like a smart option because Brady can turn it on the last 2 or 3 games. I have Brady losing this weekend to the Bengals, so that would leave him 6-8. It looks like it's starting to sort of cave in the mid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think if you're looking towards this week and they're playing Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and you kind of like the Bengals are hot at the right time, so everyone, I think, will probably assume that the Buccaneers won't beat the Bengals. But if you look at the next 3 games that the Buccaneers have, I find it difficult for them to lose them. Like, they have the Cardinals. They should beat the Cardinals. Like, Kyler Murray's out. The Cardinals are very, very disappointing this season. And then they have the Panthers. Now, I know the Panthers bet them this season, but surely they're not going to lose to them again. I see that as a win. And then the Falcons, you see, the Falcons are such an up and down team. Like, they're so dangerous, especially with Patterson. But I still think the Buccaneers can win the 3 games after the Bengals. And then if they win them, they're 9-8. But I know the Panthers, they bet the Seahawks and stuff like that, but the Seahawks have fallen off completely now since they lost to the Buccaneers in Munich. They just haven't been the same team to when they started. But I think for me, it's still the Buccaneers and Tom Brady's, because no one else in that division is just like, even when Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are playing at their worst, they're the only team that can actually flip a switch and actually start playing well, where the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons, they don't have the weapons to do that. So to me, I still see the Buccaneers at least winning the division by at least 2 games.
See, I think that the thing that I've seen with the Panthers is they have flipped the switch, and it happened with Steve Wilkes and all them taking control, and they do focus on the run game now, and I think that that's what's so potent about them. And I guess when you're talking about the Panthers game itself, the Panthers and the Falcons control their own destiny. The Panthers have the tiebreak already over the Bucs. So if they go in, like, if we're talking that the teams don't stand a chance at winning a lot of their games, it could come down to who can win one game plus the division game, either the Bucs and the Panthers. If the Panthers win that, I think they take full control of that division. Or failing that, if the Bucs come and win that, then they have to beat the Falcons the next week. So because the other teams, and this is how the NFC or NFL sets up its schedule on purpose, that it gives teams the opportunity to be in this kind of area that they have to beat one of their division rivals to get into the playoffs. It is set up so perfectly. If you actually look at who the Panthers are playing, they have the Steelers, Lions, Bucs, and Saints. I do see that they get that one other win and the Bucs game to set them up, whether maybe they beat the Saints or maybe they beat the Steelers this weekend. And something similar for the Falcons. They play the Saints, that they could go out and win that game. They probably lose to the Ravens. They also have the Cardinals and they have the Bucs. So just the way that there's common opponents between these teams is exciting if you're an NFC South fan. And I think the other thing then is, like, what wildcard can. I said I'll briefly mention the other 2 teams. I don't think it's going to be the Saints. They've been wholly inconsistent on offense and even defense. That should have been a lot better. Atlanta, I really struggled to pick against Atlanta in the beginning of the year. But why it was is because the dysfunction that came along with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback. He was kind of bailing out too soon, but it became quite a running game then. You didn't know who to defend, himself or Cordarrelle Patterson. With Kyle Pitts out now, I do think it changes that there's too much of a focus on Drake London, and obviously they've gone with Desmond Ridder at quarterback, that I think that it's just too hazy for Atlanta. But I absolutely think that game in week 17, Buccaneers Carolina, could be for the NFC South title.
Going to be a great game that one in week 17. I fully agree. And the Falcons, there's too much going on there, too many pieces.